This videotape contains 100 questions which are typical of the questions on the EPA Section 608 Universal Exam. You should read through the manual and study guide at least once and carefully study the review sections before taking this practice exam. When you're ready to test your understanding and skills, watch this video completely. The video walks you through a practice exam. Questions asked in this practice exam are typical of the questions you can expect to see in the official exam. Obviously, the practice test questions are not the same ones you'll see on the actual exam, but the practice test covers the same fundamental areas. Good luck! What is the significance of an azeotropic mixture? A. The mixture raises the refrigerant's boiling point. B. The mixture raises the refrigerant's pressure. C. The mixture lowers both boiling point and pressure of the refrigerants. D. The mixture combines to act like a single component refrigerant. The correct answer is D. Mixtures or blends of refrigerants can exhibit a distinct boiling point, or they can exhibit a boiling range. As this table illustrates, when a mixture of refrigerants exhibits a distinct boiling point, that is, when they behave as a single distinct refrigerant, then the refrigerant is designated as an azeotropic blend and is given a 500 series ASHRAE designation, such as R507. When the refrigerant mixture has a boiling range, it is referred to as a non-azeotropic or zeotropic refrigerant, and is given a 400 series ASHRAE designation, such as R404A. A boiling range in the evaporator or condenser is also referred to as a temperature glide. Refrigerant 507 is an azeotropic blend and has a single boiling point for a given pressure. Alternatively, refrigerant 404A is a non-azeotropic blend and has a boiling point range. CFCs are more likely to reach the stratosphere than other chlorine-containing compounds because A. They are chemically very stable. B. They are chemically very unstable. C. They are lighter than air. D. They are very toxic. The answer is A. CFCs are chemically very stable. They do not dissolve or break down in water, so they are not removed by rain. They are actually heavier than air and are typically not toxic. Because of their chemical stability, they do not decompose and they eventually work their way into the upper atmosphere, also known as the stratosphere. Chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs, consist of which of the following chemicals? A. Chlorine, fluorine, carbon. B. Chlorine, fluorine, cesium. C. Carbon, fluorine, other chemicals. D. Cesium, fluoride, carbon. E. Chlorine, fluoride, carbon. The first C stands for chlorine, the second letter, F, stands for fluorine, and the last letter, C, stands for carbon. Therefore, the answer is A, chlorine, fluorine, and carbon. Which compounds are the most damaging to the stratospheric ozone layer and have the highest ozone depletion potential rating? A. CFCs, B. HCFCs, C. HFCs, D. CHCs. The answer is A. CFCs. CFCs have the highest ozone depletion potential, or ODP, and are the most harmful to stratospheric ozone. Which of the following test methods are assumed by the EPA as the most effective methods for locating the general area of small leaks? A. Electronic and ultrasonic. B. Soap bubble. C. Halide torch. D. Both A and B. The answer is A. Electronic and ultrasonic testers are assumed by the EPA as the most effective method for locating the general area of small leaks. If a reclamation company is shipped a cylinder containing mixed refrigerants, they may take which of the following actions? A. Agree to destroy the refrigerant, but typically a substantial fee is charged. B. Resell the refrigerant for reuse in small 502 appliances. C. Vent the refrigerant since it cannot be reclaimed. D. Either B or C. The answer is A. When a reclamation facility receives a tank of mixed refrigerant, they may refuse to process the refrigerant and return it at the owner's expense, or it may agree to destroy the refrigerant, but typically a substantial fee is charged. One chlorine atom in the stratosphere is capable of destroying how many ozone molecules? A. Chlorine is not harmful to stratospheric ozone. B. 1. C. 500. D. 100,000. E. 1 million. The EPA states that each chlorine atom has the ability to destroy 100,000 ozone molecules in the stratosphere. Therefore, the correct response is D, 100,000. Which of the following is a CFC? A. R141B. B. R134A. C. R502. D. R123. The answer is C. R502. Be sure to know which refrigerants are CFCs. R141B and R123 are HCFCs, and R134A is an HFC. HCFC refrigerants cause what amount of damage to the stratospheric ozone layer in comparison to CFC refrigerants? A. More. B. Less. C. Equal. D. Severe. The correct answer is B. Although HCFCs contain chlorine, which is damaging to the ozone layer, they also contain hydrogen, which makes them chemically less stable when they enter the atmosphere. These refrigerants decompose faster, so very little ever reaches the ozone layer. Therefore, they have a lower ozone depletion potential. The system vacuum gauge should be connected A. As close as possible to the vacuum pump. B. As far as possible from the vacuum pump. C. As close as possible to the system being evacuated. D. In parallel to avoid EPA problems. The correct answer here is B. The system vacuum gauge should be connected as far as possible from the vacuum pump in order to obtain accurate readings. The vacuum pump should be isolated from the unit when reading the final vacuum. Manufacture of CFCs was banned as of December 31st of what year? A. 1994, B. 1995, C. 2000, D. 2010. As of December 31st, 1995, CFCs can no longer be legally manufactured or imported into the United States. Supplies of CFC refrigerant for equipment servicing can only come from recovery, recycling, and reclamation. Therefore, the correct answer is B, December 31st, 1995. Positive evidence that CFCs are in the stratosphere comes from A. EPA reports, B. Measurements of CFCs in air samples taken from the stratosphere, C. Measurements of CFCs in air samples taken at ground level, D. There is no positive evidence of CFCs in the stratosphere. The correct answer is B. Actual measurements of CFCs in air samples from the stratosphere are positive evidence that CFCs are in the stratosphere. Under EPA's regulations, reclaimed refrigerant must meet which standards for purity before it can be resold? A. ARI 700, B. ARI 740, C. SAE 1792, D. EPA 1992. The answer is A. Under EPA regulations, reclaimed refrigerant must meet ARI 700 standards for purity before it can be resold. Which of the following recovery devices are so named because they depend on components of the system? That is, they capture refrigerant with the assistance of components in the air conditioning or refrigeration equipment they are emptying. A. System dependent. B. Self-contained. C. System independent. D. Approved. E. Illegal. F. Automatic. The answer is A. System-dependent or passive recovery devices are so named because they depend on components of the system. In other words, they capture refrigerant with the assistance of components in the air conditioning or refrigeration equipment they are emptying. All devices used for refrigerant recovery must meet what standards? A. EPA, B. DOT, C. DOE, D. EPRI. The correct answer is A. All devices used for refrigerant recovery must meet EPA standards. List one HCFC refrigerant. A. R134A, B. R12, C. R22, D. R113. The correct answer is C. R22. Be sure to know which refrigerants are HCFCs. Remember, R134A is an HFC. R12 and R113 are CFCs. Which of the refrigerants listed below contain no chlorine? A. CFCs, B. HCFCs, C. HFCs, D. ODCs. The answer is C. Hydrofluorocarbon, or HFC, refrigerants are chlorine-free. They contain hydrogen, fluorine, and carbon. Which refrigerant is an HFC? A. R123, B. R134A, C. R11, D. R22. The answer is B. R134A. Be sure to know which refrigerants are HFCs. R123 and R22 are HCFCs, and R11 is a CFC. Ozone in the stratosphere consists of molecules containing how many oxygen atoms? A. 1, B. 2, C. 3, D. 4. The correct answer is C. Ozone in the stratosphere above the Earth consists of molecules containing 3 oxygen atoms, O3. What chemical or chemicals in refrigerants causes ozone destruction? A. Chlorine, B. Both chlorine and fluorine, C. Fluorine, D. Both fluoride and carbon. It is the chlorine and bromine in refrigerants that causes stratospheric ozone depletion, so the answer is A. Chlorine. Recovery devices that can capture liquid and/or vapor refrigerant without the assistance of components in the air conditioning or refrigeration equipment are known as A. Self-contained, B. System-dependent, C. EPA approved, D. Passive. Self-contained or active recovery devices can capture liquid and/or vapor refrigerant without the assistance of components in the air conditioning or refrigeration equipment. Therefore, the correct answer is A, self-contained. Remember that all recovery devices must be EPA approved. Technicians are certified to recover refrigerant during the maintenance, service, or repair of packaged AC or refrigeration equipment with 5 pounds or less of refrigerant if they receive a passing grade on which of the following examinations? A, Type 2 and 3, B, Type 1, C, Type 2, D, Type 3. The correct answer is B. Technicians receiving a Type 1 small appliance certification can recover refrigerant during the maintenance, service, or repair of packaged AC or refrigeration equipment with 5 pounds or less of refrigerant. Only Type 1 or Universal Certified Technicians can recover refrigerant from these units. Technicians are certified to recover refrigerant during the maintenance, service, or repair of high-pressure equipment if they receive a passing grade on which of the following examinations? A, Type 1, B, Type 2, C, Type 3, D, DOT. The correct answer is B. Technicians receiving a Type 2 high-pressure and very high-pressure certification can recover refrigerant during the maintenance, service, or repair of high-pressure equipment, such as high-pressure CFC 12, HCFC 22, CFC 500, CFC 502, CFC 114, and very high pressure CFC 13 and CFC 503 equipment. Only Type 2 or Universal Certified Technicians can recover refrigerant from these units. Be sure that you know which refrigerants are considered high pressure and very high pressure refrigerants. Technicians are certified to recover refrigerant during the maintenance, service, or repair of low-pressure equipment if they receive a passing grade on which of the following examinations? A, Type 1, B, Type 2, C, Type 3, D, Type 1 and 2. The correct answer is C. Technicians receiving Type 3 low-pressure certification can recover refrigerant during the maintenance, service, or repair of low-pressure equipment, such as CFC 11 and HCFC 123 equipment. Only Type 3 or Universal Certified Technicians can recover refrigerant from these units. Be sure to know which refrigerants are considered low-pressure refrigerants. What type of refrigerants leak at uneven rates due to differences in the vapor pressures? A, pure, B, low pressure, C, blended, D, CFC. The answer is C. Blended non-azeotropic refrigerants will leak from a system in uneven amounts due to different vapor pressures of the components. This is also the reason why blended non-azeotropic refrigerants must be charged as a liquid. Recovery equipment manufactured after November 15, 1993, that is used during the maintenance, service, or repair of small appliances must be certified by A. An EPA-approved third party, B. The equipment manufacturer, C. An EPA-certified technician, D. The equipment distributor. The answer is A. The EPA requires that equipment manufactured on or after November 15, 1993, be tested by an EPA-approved testing organization to ensure that it meets EPA requirements. Recovery devices for use with small appliances must be capable of recovering 80% of the refrigerant, whether or not the compressor is operating, or achieving a 4-inch vacuum under conditions of ARI 740 if they were manufactured before which of the following dates? A. November 15, 1993, B. December 31st, 1995, C. November 14th, 1994, D. July 1st, 1992. The answer is A. All recovery devices manufactured before November 15, 1993, for use with small appliances must be capable of recovering 80% of the refrigerant, whether or not the compressor is operational. Small appliance recovery equipment manufactured after November 15, 1993, must be certified to be capable of recovering 90% of the refrigerant when the compressor is operative or 80% when the compressor is inoperative. You should know the differences between the recovery requirements for recovery equipment manufactured both before and after November 15, 1993. Note that the November 15, 1993 date refers to the date the recovery equipment was manufactured, not the date the equipment being serviced was manufactured. Be sure to review the section on evacuation requirements of small appliances. Fittings that are used to connect the recovery device to an appliance and which can be manually closed or which close automatically when disconnected to prevent loss of refrigerant from hoses are called A. Low-loss fittings, B. DOT-approved hoses, C. Flare fittings, D. Recovery fittings. Since November 15, 1993, refrigerant recovery devices must be equipped with low-loss fittings, which are fittings that are used to connect the recovery device to an appliance and which can be either manually closed or which close automatically when disconnected to prevent the loss of refrigerant from the hoses. So the correct answer is A. Low-loss fittings. When checking for non-condensables in a recovery cylinder, the technician should do which of the following before taking a pressure reading? A. Wait 1 hour. B. Allow the temperature of the cylinder to stabilize to room temperature. C. Wait 24 hours. D. Evacuate the system. The correct answer is B. When checking for non-condensables in a recovery cylinder, the technician should allow the temperature of the cylinder to stabilize to room temperature before taking a pressure reading, because comparisons to a pressure temperature chart are only valid if both the pressure and temperature of the refrigerant are stable and known. Refillable cylinders are regulated in their design, fabrication, and testing by which organization for use in the transportation of refrigerants? A. EPA, B. DOT, C. DOD, D. EPRI. The answer is B. Disposable cylinders are manufactured to specifications established by the U.S. Department of Transportation, or DOT. The DOT has regulatory authority over all hazardous materials in commercial transportation. Capturing and ultimately eliminating the use of chlorofluorocarbons is being done in the United States to stop damage to A. the stratospheric ozone layer, B. ground level ozone, C. ultraviolet light, D. infrared light. The answer is A. Capturing and eliminating the use of chlorofluorocarbons is being done in the United States to stop damage to the stratospheric ozone layer. State and local governments may establish laws that contain regulations that are what in comparison to Clean Air Act EPA regulations? A. Stricter, B. less restrictive, C. either A or B, D. neither A or B. The answer is A. State and local governments may establish laws that contain stricter regulations than the Clean Air Act EPA regulations. The Clean Air Act, A. calls for the phase-out of CFC-HCFC production. B. prohibits CFC-HCFC venting as of July 1st, 1992. C. requires the EPA to set standards for equipment and technicians. D. all of the above. The answer is D. all of the above. Since July 1st, 1992, the Clean Air Act has called for the phase-out of CFC-HCFC production, prohibited CFC-HCFC venting, and required the EPA to set standards for recovery, recycling, and reclamation of refrigerants. You must always recover refrigerant before you dispose of any appliance containing which type of refrigerant? A. CFC, B. HFC, C. HCFC, D. all three, E. both A and B, F. both A and C. The answer is D. all three. Before you dispose of any appliance containing a CFC, HCFC, or HFC refrigerant, you must recover the refrigerant. All persons opening appliances for maintenance, service, or repair must have at least one piece of certified, self-contained recovery equipment available at their place of business. The only exception is for A. Chillers, B. High-pressure appliances, C. Small appliances, D. Very high-pressure appliances. As of July 13, 1993, all persons opening appliances for maintenance, service, or repair, and all persons disposing of appliances must have at least one piece of certified, self-contained recovery equipment available at their place of business. The exception to this ruling is small appliances. Therefore, the answer is C. Small appliances. Recovery cylinders can be identified by A. Gray tops and yellow bodies, B. Green tops and red bodies, C. Yellow tops and gray bodies, D. Blue tops and green bodies. The correct answer is C. Approved refrigerant recovery cylinders can be identified by yellow tops and gray bodies. It's a good idea to paint a color stripe around the cylinder to indicate the type of recovered refrigerant contained inside. It's also good practice to utilize two separate recovery cylinders for each refrigerant. One for clean, recycled refrigerant, and one for dirty, not recycled refrigerant. Reusable refrigerant cylinders must be retested how often? A. 5-year intervals, B. Monthly, C. 10-year intervals, D. 30-year intervals. The answer is A. Reusable containers for refrigerants that are under a pressure above 15 psig at normal ambient temperature must be hydrostatically tested and date stamped every 5 years. You should always get an accurate pressure reading of the refrigerant in a recovery cylinder because the pressure reading can indicate if there is which of the following in the cylinder. A. Dirty refrigerants, B. Excessive air or other non-condensables, C. Moisture, D. Oil. The correct answer is B. Accurate pressure reading of the refrigerant inside a recovery cylinder is necessary to determine if excessive air or other non-condensables are in the cylinder. Individuals servicing and disposing of air conditioning and refrigeration equipment are prohibited from A. Allowing minimal release of refrigerant associated with recovery and recycling while attempting to minimize refrigerant losses. B. Knowingly venting refrigerant into the atmosphere. C. Knowingly disposing of an empty evacuated refrigerant container. D. De minimis releases associated with good faith attempts to recapture and recycle or safely dispose of refrigerant. B is the correct answer. HVAC service personnel or any other individual may not knowingly vent or otherwise knowingly release or dispose of any substance used as a refrigerant in a manner which permits such substance to enter the environment. De minimis releases associated with good faith attempts to recapture and recycle or safely dispose of any such substance are tolerated. In other words, if you're attempting to minimize refrigerant losses, any minimal losses associated with recovery and recycling are allowed. This prohibition became effective July 1, 1992. The penalties and fines for violating the EPA provisions can be severe. The EPA is authorized to seek various levels of legal redress against any person who violates the venting prohibitions. It has been illegal to vent HFC refrigerants since A. November 1995, B. December 1995, C. July 1994, D. June 1996. The correct answer is A. Since November 15, 1995, HFCs and other refrigerants with a zero ozone depletion potential are also subject to the restriction on venting because they are greenhouse gases, meaning they contribute to the global warming problem and must be recovered. The EPA is authorized to assess fines of up to what amount per day per violation for any violation of the Clean Air Act? A. $10,000, B. $27,500, C. $50,000, D. $100,000. The correct answer is B. $27,500. Since July 1, 1992, the EPA has been responding to tips reporting venting. Under the Clean Air Act, the EPA is authorized to assess fines of up to $27,500 per day per violation for any violation of the Act. This dollar amount is a maximum figure and is not necessarily the amount that will be assessed or paid in all cases. Which of the following means to clean refrigerant for reuse by oil separation and single or multiple passes through devices such as replaceable core filter dryers, which reduce moisture, acidity, and particulate matter? A. Recovery, B. Recycling, C. Reclamation, D. Recirculate. The correct answer is B. The definition of recycling is to extract refrigerant from an appliance and to clean refrigerant for reuse without meeting all of the requirements for reclamation. In general, recycled refrigerant is refrigerant that is cleaned using oil separation and single or multiple passes through devices such as replaceable core filter dryers, which reduce moisture, acidity, and particulate matter. Which of the following requires chemical analysis of the refrigerant to verify that the ARI 700 purity specifications are met? A. Recovery. B. Recycling. C. Reclamation. D. Recirculate. The answer is C. Reclamation means to reprocess refrigerant to at least the purity specified in the ARI Standard 700 specifications for fluorocarbon refrigerants, and to verify this purity using the analytical test procedures described in the standard. Which of the following means to remove refrigerant in any condition from a system and store it in an external container without necessarily testing or processing it in any way? A. Recovery. B. Recycling. C. Reclamation. D. Recirculate. The definition of recovery is to remove refrigerant in any condition from an appliance and to store it in an external container without necessarily testing or processing it in any way. So the answer is A. Recovery. Used disposable refrigerant cylinders can be A. Recycled with other scrap metal after they are emptied and rendered useless. B. Filled with compressed air to fix flats. C. Recertified as recovery tanks after painting. D. Refilled twice before discarding. The answer is A. Disposable cylinders should be emptied of all contents using a refrigerant recovery device. Once emptied, the cylinder's valve should be opened to allow air to enter, and the cylinder should be punctured with the valve still open. Used cylinders can then be recycled with other scrap metal. Which of the following items does DOT Regulation 49 CFR require to be recorded on the shipping paper for Hazard Class 2.2 non-flammable compressed gases? A. Number of cylinders being transported. B. Combined weight of all cylinders. C. Number of cylinders for each gas. D. Weight of each individual cylinder. The correct answer is C. DOT Regulations 49 CFR require the number of cylinders of each gas to be recorded on the shipping paper for Hazard Class 2.2 non-flammable compressed gases. Portable refillable containers must meet which organization's requirements and standards? A. DOT. B. DOE. C. ARI, D. SAE. The answer is A. DOT. In addition to disposable and returnable cylinders, refillables also are regulated in their design, fabrication, and testing by the DOT for use in transportation of refrigerants. Approved refillable tanks should never be filled to more than what percentage of their total capacity? A. 97%. B. 95%. C. 80%. D. 70%. The answer here is C. A refillable refrigerant cylinder must not be filled above 80% of its full capacity. The ozone layer absorbs and scatters what type of light from the sun, which prevents harmful amounts from reaching the Earth? A. Ultraviolet. B. Infrared. C. Visible. D. Moon. The answer is A. The ozone layer consists of ozone in the stratosphere, high above the Earth at an altitude of between 7 and 28 miles. It's formed by ultraviolet or UV light from the sun acting on oxygen molecules. The ozone layer absorbs and scatters ultraviolet light from the sun, thus preventing harmful amounts of ultraviolet light from reaching the Earth. For this reason, it is often referred to as the ozone shield. Which refrigerants should not be recovered with current recovery devices? A. Sulfur dioxide, methyl chloride, and methyl formate, which are refrigerants used in some refrigerators built before 1950. B. Ammonia, hydrogen, and water, which may be present in refrigerators used in small appliances in campers or other recreational vehicles. C. None of the above. D. Both A and B. The correct answer is D. Sulfur dioxide, methyl chloride, and methyl formate, which are refrigerants used in some refrigerators built before 1950, should not be recovered with current recovery hardware. Likewise, ammonia, hydrogen, and water may be present in refrigerators used in small appliances, in campers, or other recreational vehicles, and should not be recovered with current recovery devices. In a high-pressure system, one indicator that there is a leak in the system is A. Excessive superheat. B. Moisture. C. Oil. D. Low temperature. The correct answer is A. Excessive superheat is one indicator of a leak in a high-pressure refrigeration system. Which component of a large open-type compressor is most likely to leak if the unit has not been operated in more than 2 months. A. Crankcase. B. Rotating shaft seal. C. Suction service valve. D. Discharge service valve. The correct answer is B. The rotating shaft seal on an open-type compressor is likely to leak if the unit is not used for several months. Operating the unit for a short period of time monthly will significantly reduce the leakage. When you have no other choice but to use a refrigerant trace gas, which refrigerant should be used for leak detection? A. R134A. B. R12. C. R22. D. R123. The correct answer is C. R22. HCFC 22 has only a small fraction of the ability of a CFC refrigerant to destroy stratospheric ozone. It should not be used pure. Instead, only a small amount should be introduced and the system then pressurized with nitrogen. It is true that using an HFC like 134A mixed with nitrogen would provide less damage to the ozone, but the only approved and legal refrigerant leak test gas is a nitrogen R22 mixture. Also, it is not legal to avoid refrigerant recovery by simply adding nitrogen to a leaking R22 system and then calling the charge a leak check gas, which need not be recovered. Rather, the system must be evacuated first, repairs made, and checked for leaks with nitrogen. At that time, if a leak is detected and an electronic refrigerant detector is to be used, then it can be charged with a small amount of R22 and pressurized with nitrogen to locate the leak. What is the first thing that should be done when a new air conditioning system has first been assembled and is ready for testing? A. Pressurize the system with nitrogen and perform a leak test. B. Perform a standard vacuum test. C. Pressurize with R12 and leak test. D. Pressurize with HFC 134. The correct answer is A. When a new system has been assembled and is ready for testing, the first thing you should do is pressurize the system with an inert gas such as nitrogen and leak check the system. Positive pressure tests are more likely than vacuum tests to indicate a leak, because with a vacuum test, the maximum pressure difference is only 14.7 psi. Mixtures of which of the following that are used as holding charges or as leak test gases are not subject to the July 1st, 1992 prohibition? A. Nitrogen and R22. B. Nitrogen and R12. C. Nitrogen and R11. D. Both A and B. The correct answer is A. Mixtures of nitrogen and R22 and only R22 nitrogen mixtures that are used as holding charges or as leak test gases are not subject to the prohibition on venting, meaning they do not have to be recovered. However, as stated earlier, a technician may not avoid recovering refrigerant by adding nitrogen to a charged system. Which of the following statements is true of recovery and recycling equipment manufactured after November 15, 1993? A. It must meet stricter vacuum standards than those met by equipment manufactured before November 15, 1993. B. It must be tested by an EPA-approved third party. C. It must be equipped with low-loss fittings. D. All of the above. The correct answer is D. Recovery and recycling equipment manufactured after November 15, 1993 must meet more stringent vacuum standards than equipment manufactured before November 15, 1993. It must be tested by an EPA-approved third party, and it must be equipped with low-loss fittings. The EPA is authorized to pay awards of up to what amount to any person who furnishes information that leads to a criminal conviction of another person for violation of the Clean Air Act? A. $1,000. B. $5,000. C. $10,000. D. $27,500. The correct answer is C. An award of up to $10,000 may be paid to any person supplying information that leads to a penalty against a technician who is in violation of the Clean Air Act. Hydrochlorofluorocarbon, HCFC, refrigerants contain A. Hydrogen, chlorine, fluorine, and carbon. B. Hydrogen, chlorine, fluorine, and calcium. C. Helium, chlorine, fluorine, and carbon. D. Helium, chlorine, fluorine, and calcium. The answer is A. Hydrochlorofluorocarbon, or HCFC refrigerants, contain hydrogen, chlorine, fluorine, and carbon. Hydrofluorocarbon, HFC refrigerants contain A. Hydrogen, fluorine, and carbon. B. Hydrogen, fluorine, and calcium. C. Helium, fluorine, and carbon. D. Hydrogen, chlorine, fluorine, and carbon. The correct response is A. Hydrofluorocarbon, or HFC refrigerants, contain hydrogen, fluorine, and carbon. R134A, also known as HFC 134A, is a chlorine-free refrigerant. HFC fluorocarbon refrigerants cause no harm to the stratospheric ozone. They have A. Zero ODP, B. Low ODP, C. High ODP, D. Zero GHE. The answer is A. HFC refrigerants have a zero ODP and cause no harm to stratospheric ozone. They do, however, contribute to global warming, just like HCFCs and CFCs, and cannot be vented. Which of the following is a result of damage to the Earth's ozone layer? A. Skin cancers, B. Cataracts, C. Reduced crop yields, D. All three. The answer is D. All three. The ozone layer protects the Earth from ultraviolet radiation from the sun. Skin cancer is one serious result of damage to the Earth's ozone layer. Ozone depletion can also result in reduced crop yields, reduced marine life, and increased ground-level ozone. An increase in the number of cataracts can also be attributed to an increase in ultraviolet radiation. The existence of what in the upper stratosphere indicates that the ozone layer is being destroyed? A. Chlorine monoxide, B. Water, C. Ozone, D. Both A and C. The answer is A. The existence of chlorine monoxide in the upper stratosphere indicates that the ozone layer is being destroyed. Since what date has it been illegal to knowingly release CFC and HCFC refrigerants during the service, maintenance, repair, or disposal of appliances? A. July 1st, 1992. B. November 14th, 1994. C. January 1st, 1995. D. January 1st, 1996. The correct answer is A. Effective July 1st, 1992, Section 608 of the Clean Air Act prohibits individuals from knowingly venting ozone-depleting compounds used as refrigerants into the atmosphere when maintaining, servicing, repairing, or disposing of air conditioning or refrigeration equipment. It is illegal to knowingly release what type of refrigerants during the service, maintenance, repair, or disposal of appliances? A. CFC, B. HCFC, C. HFC, D. All three. The answer is D. CFCs, HCFCs, and HFCs. Since November 15, 1995, HFCs and other refrigerants with a zero ozone depletion potential are also subject to the restriction on venting because they are greenhouse gases, meaning they contribute to the global warming problem and must be recovered. Which refrigerants are controlled by the Montreal Protocol? A. Chlorofluorocarbons, hydrochlorofluorocarbons, and halons. B. Chlorofluorocarbons, hydrochlorofluorocarbons, halons, and hydrofluorocarbons. C. Chlorofluorocarbons, halons, and hydrofluorocarbons. D. Only chlorofluorocarbons and halons. The answer is A. Chlorofluorocarbons, hydrochlorofluorocarbons, and halons are all controlled by the Montreal Protocol. The actual U.S. laws incorporating these restrictions are part of the U.S. Clean Air Act. The equipment covered by EPA regulations includes all air conditioning and refrigeration equipment containing and using what type of refrigerants? A. CFC, B. HCFC, C. Any toxic, D. HFC, E. All, F. Both A and B, G. Both A and C. The answer is E. All. Equipment covered by the EPA regulations includes all air conditioning and refrigeration equipment containing and using CFC, HCFC, and HFC refrigerants. Self-contained recovery devices. A. Require the assistance of components contained in an appliance to remove the refrigerant from the appliance. B. Can capture liquid and/or vapor refrigerant without the assistance of components in the air conditioning or refrigeration equipment. C. Reprocess refrigerant to at least the purity specified in the ARI Standard 700 specifications for fluorocarbon refrigerants and verifies this purity using the analytical test procedures described in the standard. D. Extract refrigerant from an appliance and clean it for reuse without meeting all of the requirements for reclamation. The answer is B. Self-contained recovery devices can capture liquid and/or vapor refrigerant without the assistance of components in the air conditioning or refrigeration equipment. An oil that is said to be hygroscopic has an affinity for A. Ozone, B. Refrigerant, C. Moisture, D. Air and other non-condensables. The answer is C. Moisture. Hygroscopic means attraction to water, so hygroscopic oils are oils that readily absorb moisture. POE and PAG oils are hygroscopic. The oils that will be employed with most of the HFC 134A refrigeration applications are A. Organic mixtures. B. Synthetic esters. C. Alkyl benzene. D. All of these. The answer is B. Oils that will be used with most HFC 134A refrigeration applications are ester-based synthetic oils, such as POE oils. The synthetic lubricant presently used with ternary blends is A. Organic mixtures. B. Synthetic esters. C. Alkyl benzene. D. All of these. The answer is C. The synthetic lubricant presently used with ternary blends is alkyl benzene. Which of the following refrigerants have a range of boiling points or condensing points throughout the evaporator and condenser, respectively? The term used to describe this is temperature glide or gliding temperature. A. Non-azeotropic. B. Azeotropic. C. Pure. D. Reclaimed. The answer is A. A non-azeotropic or zeotropic refrigerant blend, sometimes referred to simply as a blend refrigerant, has a range of boiling points. This table illustrates the characteristic for R404A. The range of boiling points is sometimes referred to as the temperature glide. Which of the following blends is a two-part mixture? A. Binary. B. Ternary. C. Unitary. D. Both A and B. The correct response is A. A binary blend is a two-part mixture, and a ternary blend is a three-part mixture. What changes a high-pressure vapor to a high-pressure liquid? A. The evaporator. B. The condenser. C. The compressor. D. The expansion device, or TXV. The correct answer is B. The component of a refrigeration system that changes a high-pressure vapor to a high-pressure liquid is the condenser. The component that changes a low-pressure vapor to a high-pressure vapor is A. The evaporator. B. The condenser. C. The compressor. D. The expansion device, or TXV. The answer is C. The component that changes a low-pressure vapor to a high-pressure vapor is the compressor. Which of the following is the cleaning of refrigerant for reuse by oil separation and single or multiple passes through moisture absorption devices? A. Recirculation. B. Recycling. C. Recovery. D. Reclamation. The answer here is B. Recycling. Recycling is defined as the cleaning of refrigerant for reuse by oil separation and single or multiple passes through moisture absorption devices. Which of the following is defined as processing refrigerant to a level equal to new product specifications as determined by chemical analyses? A. Recirculation. B. Recycling. C. Recovery. D. Reclamation. The correct answer is D. Reclamation. Reclamation is defined as processing refrigerant to a level equal to new product specifications as determined by chemical analyses to verify the refrigerant meets ARI 700 purity standards. The transfer of refrigerant in any condition from a system to a storage container without testing or purifying the refrigerant in any way is known as A. Recirculation. B. Recycling. C. Recovery. D. Reclamation. The answer is C. Recovery. Recovery is defined as transferring refrigerant in any condition from a system to a storage container without testing or purifying the refrigerant in any way. During dehydration of a refrigeration system, what can be done to decrease dehydration time? A. Heat the system. B. Cool the system. C. Either A or B. D. Neither A or B will affect dehydration time. During dehydration of a refrigeration system, the refrigeration system can be heated to decrease dehydration time. So the answer is A. Heat the system. In a low-pressure centrifugal system, refrigerant travels from the purge unit to the A. Evaporator. B. Condenser. C. Recovery service vessel. D. Compressor intercooler. The answer is A. Refrigerant travels from the purge unit to the evaporator in a low-pressure centrifugal system. A purge unit removes vapor from the top of the condenser. The vapor is cooled by the purge unit so that the refrigerant condenses. The non-condensable gas that will not condense is purged or dumped, and the liquid refrigerant that remains is returned to the evaporator. In a low-pressure system, high head pressure indicates that there is what in the system? A. Moisture. B. Air. C. Oil. D. All of the above. The correct response is B. High head pressure indicates that there is either a lack of condenser cooling or non-condensables, such as air or nitrogen, in the system. The final system vacuum level is measured with the A. System isolated. B. Vacuum pump running. C. System compressor running. D. Recovery system running. The correct answer is A. The final system vacuum level is always measured with the system isolated and the vacuum pump turned off. When leak testing a low-pressure centrifugal system with nitrogen, the maximum test pressure is A. 10 psig, B. 100 psig, C. 350 psig, D. 400 psig. The correct answer is A. When leak testing a low-pressure centrifugal system with nitrogen, the maximum test pressure is 10 psig because pressure relief devices are typically set at 15 psig. Identify the saturation pressure corresponding to minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit for R134A. A. 23 inches of mercury vacuum. B. 20 inches of mercury vacuum. C. 3.8 inches of mercury vacuum. D. 16 inches of mercury vacuum. The correct answer is C. Using a temperature pressure chart for R134A, we can see that the pressure corresponding to a saturation temperature of minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit is 3.8 inches of vacuum. On temperature pressure charts, the vacuum pressures are typically in inches of mercury vacuum and are always distinguished from the positive pressures, which are typically in pounds per square inch gauge, that is PSIG. Which of the following would be considered a major repair by the EPA? A. Replacing the condenser. B. Replacing an evaporator coil. C. Replacing the compressor. D. All of the above. The correct answer is D. All of the above. Major repairs are those involving removal of the compressor, condenser, evaporator, or auxiliary heat exchanger coil. The EPA defines which of the following as the length of tubing that provides access to the refrigerant inside a small appliance or room air conditioner, and that can be resealed at the conclusion of repair or service. A. Process stub. B. Charging stub. C. Recharging stub. D. Recovery stub. The correct response is A. Process stub. All manufactured appliances must be equipped with a service aperture or process stub. All appliances, except small appliances, manufactured after November 15, 1993, must be equipped with a service aperture. Small appliances manufactured after November 15, 1993, can be equipped with either a process stub or a service aperture. The major purpose of this requirement is to make it easier to recover refrigerant. A service aperture or process stub is used when adding or removing refrigerant from the appliance. A process stub service port is a straight piece of tubing that is entered using a piercing access valve. A device that removes air and other non-condensables from the top of the condenser of a centrifugal refrigeration system during operation is called a System-Dependent Recirculation Unit. B. Purge Unit. C. System-Dependent Recovery Unit. D. System Independent Recovery Unit. The answer is B, a device that removes air and other non-condensables from the top of a condenser of a low-pressure refrigeration system during operation is called a purge unit. During vapor recovery from a low-pressure refrigeration system, what should be left on? A. System water pumps. B. Recovery compressor. C. Recovery condenser water. D. All of the above. The correct answer here is D, all of the above. During vapor recovery of a low-pressure refrigeration system, the system water pumps, recovery compressor, and the recovery condenser water should all be on. This will prevent freezing the water and will cool the recovery condenser if it is a water-cooled condenser. A technician should always review the material safety data sheets whenever working with any A. Unknown solvents. B. Unknown chemical. C. Unknown refrigerants. D. All of these. The correct response is D, Whenever a technician is working with unknown solvents, chemicals, or refrigerants, the technician should always review the material safety data sheets, which by law should be shipped by the manufacturer with these compounds. When recovering refrigerant from an R11 system, the service technician should keep the evaporator chiller water flowing to avoid A. Freezing of the water, B. Corrosion, C. Destruction of the ozone, D. Release of toxic fumes. The answer here is A. Water must be circulated through a chiller during refrigerant evacuation to prevent freezing of the water in the evaporator heat exchanger. Refrigerant vapors or mist in high concentrations should not be inhaled since they have been demonstrated to cause A. Heart irregularities, B. Unconsciousness, C. Oxygen deprivation, D. All of these. The correct answer is D. All of these. Refrigerant vapors or mist in high concentrations should not be inhaled because they've been demonstrated to cause heart irregularities or unconsciousness in some people. Note the warnings on the packaging. Refrigerants are also heavier than air and can displace the air in a room, leaving no breathing air in the room, leading to asphyxia. In most refrigerant accidents where death occurs, the major cause is oxygen deprivation. Pressure relief valves must never be A. Installed in series, B. Used if rusted or corroded, C. Tampered with, D. All of these. The correct answer is D. Pressure relief valves must never be installed in series, but are commonly installed in parallel. Also, pressure relief valves should never be tampered with or used if rusted or corroded. When pressurizing a refrigeration system with nitrogen, A. A nitrogen regulator is not required since the pressure is low. B. Charge with liquid nitrogen whenever possible since it is faster. C. Only charge with nitrogen vapor and use a regulator. D. Both A and B above. The answer is C. When pressurizing a refrigeration system with nitrogen, always use a pressure regulator and never charge with liquid nitrogen. Only charge with nitrogen vapor. Under the EPA's regulations, it is allowable to do which of the following to pressurize an R11 system for the purpose of opening the system for a non-major repair? A. Use an open flame gently applied to the condenser. B. Warm the refrigerant. C. Use a propane gas or acetylene air torch, but not an oxygen acetylene torch, since this would be too hot. D. Both B and C. The answer is B. The EPA recommends warming refrigerant with hot water as a method to pressurize an R11 or R123 system for the purpose of opening the system for a non-major repair. According to the EPA, when removing oil from a low-pressure system, the temperature should be how warm to reduce the quantity of refrigerant contained in the oil? A. 65 degrees Fahrenheit. B. 40 degrees Fahrenheit. C. 80 degrees Fahrenheit. D. 130 degrees Fahrenheit. The correct response is D. When removing oil from a low-pressure system, the EPA states the temperature should be 130 degrees Fahrenheit because less refrigerant will be contained in the oil at the higher temperature. The EPA defines which of the following as any appliance that is a motor vehicle air conditioner, as defined in 40 CFR Part 82, Subpart B. A. A motor vehicle air conditioner, or MVAC. B. A motor vehicle like air conditioner, or MVAC-like. C. An automotive cooling system. D. An automotive air conditioning system. The answer is A. The definition of motor vehicle air conditioners, or MVAC, is mechanical vapor compression refrigeration equipment used to cool the driver or passenger compartments of any motor vehicle. This definition is not intended to encompass the hermetically sealed refrigeration system used on motor vehicles for refrigerated cargo or the air conditioning systems on passenger buses, which use HCFC 22 refrigerant. When using recovery and recycling equipment manufactured after November 15, 1993, technicians must evacuate an appliance containing low-pressure refrigerants such as CFC-11 and HCFC-123 to what level of mercury absolute, or 28.9 inches of mercury, before making a major repair, independent of the quantity of refrigerant in the system. A. 0.0 inches. B. 25 millimeters. C. 15 inches. D. 28.9 millimeters. The answer is B. When using recovery and recycling equipment manufactured after November 15, 1993, technicians must evacuate an appliance containing low-pressure refrigerants such as CFC-11 and HCFC-123 to 25 millimeters of mercury absolute, more commonly referred to as 28.9 inches of mercury, before making a major repair, independent of the quantity of refrigerant in the system. When using recovery and recycling equipment manufactured after November 15, 1993, technicians must evacuate an appliance containing less than 200 pounds of R22 to what level of mercury vacuum before making a major repair? A. 0.0 inches. B. 10 inches. C. 15 inches. D. 28.9 inches. When using recovery and recycling equipment manufactured after November 15, 1993, technicians must evacuate a system containing more than 200 pounds of HCFC-22 to 10 inches of mercury vacuum before making a major repair. If the system contains less than 200 pounds, the system must be evacuated to 0.0 inches of mercury. Therefore, the correct response is A, 0.0 inches. Review Table 14 before taking the exam. Which of the following can be used with R22 to leak check hardware? A. Oxygen. B. Compressed air. C. Nitrogen. D. Any of these. The answer is C. Nitrogen. Nitrogen can be used with R22 to leak check hardware. Mixtures of nitrogen and any other CFC, HFC, or HCFC except HCFC-22 are subject to the prohibition on venting. That means it is illegal to vent them into the atmosphere. Purge units that vent a low percentage of refrigerant with the air that it removes are called A. Low efficiency purge units. B. EPA approved purge units. C. High efficiency purge units. D. Low emission purge units. The answer is C. A purge unit that vents to ambient a low percentage of refrigerant with the air that it vents is known as a high-efficiency purge unit because it is very efficient at separating the air from the refrigerant. Therefore, it minimizes the refrigerant vented. A major reason why a refrigerant tank should never be heated with an open flame is because it might A. Explode. B. Rust. C. Add to global warming. D. All of the above. The correct answer is A. The most important reason never to heat a refrigerant storage or recovery tank with an open flame is that the tank may explode and seriously injure people in the vicinity. Be sure to visit our website at www.epatest.com to view your test results. Your exam will be graded and your results will be mailed within 48 hours after it is received by Mainstream. Test results are posted daily at www.epatest.com. Just click on the link that says View Your Proctored Test Results and follow the instructions. Also, visit www.qwik.com for technical information on any of Mainstream's Quick products and to locate your nearest distributor.